2D platformers are the most popular genre of game for indie developers to create, and since Itchio is for indie developers, there's lots of amazing ones on there. Here are the top 10 free 2D platformers on Itchio you don't know about. Mini Doom 2 reimagines classic Doom as an action platformer. Like Doom, you acquire a large array of weapons you use to decimate legions of demons. Combat is frantic as movement is key to survival. At the end of each level, you face a boss room that sends tons of enemies at you alongside a central boss. Much like Doom, you go around levels looking for keycards, which you then use to unlock doors for progression. There are tons of secrets hidden around levels that you want to keep an eye out for, as you can get permanent upgrades to things like health and ammo capacity. As you progress, you unlock new abilities like a double jump that give you more movement options or buffs. Each level adds in new environmental hazards and new enemies, making each level feel fresh. Even though this is just a fan game, the polish here is incredible, including the soundtrack, as it really heightens the action. The game is quite lengthy and has 5 different difficulty options, so if you like Doom or just solid 2D action platformers, then I recommend Mini Doom 2. Celeste Classic 2 is a fan-made Celeste game where you platform your way up a mountain while collecting strawberries. It controls a lot like Celeste, but changes up the mechanics of the movement. Instead of being able to climb or dash, you get a grapple hook that hooks into walls and pulls you. It's very momentum-based, as you can release the hookshot and jump out of it at any point during the grapple. The level design is brilliant, as it's all centered around this new mechanic. There's hook points that allow you to chain multiple jumps and hookshots together, as well as snowballs and springs you can grab to use to your advantage. The game is very difficult but never gets old because each checkpoint brings a new challenge to the table. There's optional strawberries to collect that give you an extra side challenge if you're up for it. If you're looking for a tight Celeste-like platformer with a unique hookshot mechanic, then I recommend Celeste Classic 2. Stargrove Scramble is a cute platformer where you throw eggs at enemies in an effort to find your son. You can hold up to 5 eggs at a time and throw them at enemies or blocks to destroy them. You can jump on some enemies as well and throw your eggs in 4 directions, allowing you to perform a pseudo double jump if needed. There's multiple types of eggs that each do different things, and the levels are designed around whatever type of eggs you're using. The new enemies and egg types added in each of the game's 3 worlds keep the pace flowing and shake up gameplay. There's stars and 3 orbs to collect in every level, much like a Yoshi game. If you collect enough stars to fill up this meter, you'll get a shield which absorbs 1 hit. The boss fights at the end of the world are well designed, and the whole game is extremely polished. If you're looking for a cute platformer centered around throwing eggs, then I recommend Stargrove Scramble. Static Cling is a puzzle platformer where you play as a rogue spark trying to free itself from electric tethers to escape. Being a spark, the environmental puzzles are all centered around electricity. You move along power lines and can reach out a short distance to interact with other things like these mechanical legs that let you move around freely or move through conductible surfaces like water. Each of the game's 3 worlds adds in new mechanics and elements like that to further layer the puzzle design. There's tons of variety in the types of solutions required to solve puzzles. There's magnets, these purple guys that chase you, and generators that activate something in the environment, just to name a few. If you're looking for a perfectly paced puzzle platformer with a unique electricity mechanic, then I recommend Static Cling. Deepest Night is a platformer where you play as a knight who uses his sword for platforming in an attempt to slay a dragon. You can move left and right, but you can't jump, so you rotate your sword to navigate through the various dungeons. Every time you make it through and try to stab the dragon's heart, your sword gets bigger. This changes up how you move through dungeons, as your sword is either too long or short for certain situations. The level design works to make sure you really understand what your sword can do and how you have to orient it to progress. It's a lot harder than it looks to properly time the rotation and pivot point effectively, especially with the longest sword. If you're looking for a cute but deceptively challenging game, then I recommend Deepest Sword. Fairy Afterlight is a gorgeous platformer where you control 2 characters simultaneously. Your main black blob character can wall jump and attack enemies, while your fairy character helps them out by interacting with things in the environment and can control enemies. By taking control of enemies, you can use them to your advantage to reach otherwise inaccessible areas. There are different platform types, some of which can be controlled by your fairy, like these ones you turn on and off. The combat itself is very simple but works well in conjunction with the platforming. The generous checkpoints, beautiful art style, and relaxing soundtrack ensure you never get frustrated. If you're looking for a chill platformer with a beautiful art style, then I recommend Fairy Afterlight. Cleaning the System is an experimental platformer where you rotate a stick to bounce through levels. It's much harder than it looks because you have to take momentum into account and how much your stick will bounce. Along your journey, you'll encounter new obstacles as you progress through levels. Fans will blow your stick depending on how it's oriented, ice will fling your stick along its path, and water will turn it into an underwater jet. The game frames itself as a relaxing platformer, but my god is it frustrating in the best possible way, much like a good rage game. If you're looking for a deceptively challenging platformer with a unique bouncing mechanic, then I recommend Cleaning the System. Edna Out of Sight, Out of Control is a platformer where you make your way through a castle by possessing statues. You play as a witch who can take control of statues as long as they're within your line of sight. The statues can move and jump, just like you, so they're used to hold buttons down or can be used as platforms. As you progress, you'll be able to swap between multiple statues at once, making the puzzles more complex. There's environmental elements like mirrors that you can change the position of to redirect your line of sight. There's also optional sushi pieces you can collect that add an extra challenge to go for. If you're looking for a puzzle platformer with a unique sightline mechanic, then I recommend Edna Out of Sight, Out of Control. Block Steady is a puzzle platformer where you destroy everything to be the only thing left on screen. There are various enemy types that all behave differently and are used to accomplish different goals. Jumping on the regular purple blocks won't destroy them, but if an enemy is on them and you jump on the enemy, they will break sequentially. There are also cloud blocks that can only be jumped on once before breaking. The enemy types and block types force you to plan your route and get you to figure out what sequence of steps you need to do to be the last thing left. The one flaw with the game is that you can jump above the screen, which makes it hard to gauge where you are. If you're looking for a puzzle platformer with amazing level design and a fun concept, then I recommend Block Steady. Birdsong is a retro platformer where the entire world is warped to all fit on your screen. Throughout the world, you can find sticks which you can then use to build a nest at certain spots that act as a checkpoint. You can also find upgrades that improve your jump height or give you abilities like a wall jump or double jump that lets you access new areas, much like a Metroidvania. The main goal of the game is to explore the world and collect all 7 gems. The fisheye thing is a bit of a gimmick, but it does allow you to see the whole map at once, which helps orient you and see points of interest. If you're looking for a well-designed experimental platformer, then I recommend Birdsong. Those were the top 10 free 2D platformers on Itchio you didn't know about. I'll have my playlist of free Itchio games you don't know about, as well as my videos about free platformers on Steam linked in the description. Thanks for watching and be sure to like and subscribe to see more videos like this in the future.